I saw that we'd matched the next day on the Saturday.
The moment Grace is mentioned, Jesse's body language begins to show signs that his stress level is increasing. His legs squeeze his hands between his thighs, and he also immediately takes a drink.
How did the evening pan out? Yeah, pretty good.
No parent could ever imagine that the day their child leaves home to explore the world could become a day of destiny. And when standing before dozens of cameras, New Zealand Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern choked up as she delivered an apology to the Millane family, a sentence that made the entire nation fall silent. Your daughter should have been safe here, but she wasn't. In just a few brief seconds, those words pierced the hearts of millions, opening a story that the world will later refer to with a chilling name, The Horrors of Room 308. The central figure of this tragedy is Grace Emmy Rose Millane, a 22-year-old from Essex, England. A marketing graduate from the University of Lincoln, Grace carries a warm-hearted, genuine soul and a fiercely adventurous spirit. She loved her family, loved discovering new places, and made it a daily habit to document her journey with energetic messages sent to her parents. After graduating, she decided to turn her dream of traveling the world into reality, a journey her family believed would be full of beautiful experiences. On November 20th, 2018, Grace arrived in Auckland, New Zealand. She stayed at a small hotel in the city center, planning to spend several weeks exploring nature, meeting new friends, and enjoying the first independent trip of her life. But on the evening of December 1st, 2018, on her 22nd birthday, Grace agreed to meet someone she'd connected with on Tinder. What seemed like an ordinary date became the last time anyone would see her safe. Why would a joyful night lead to an outcome no one could imagine? What truly happened behind the door of room 308? The answer lies within details that sent shivers across the globe, and that is where the story begins. After that birthday night, Grace Millane's life veered in a direction that no one in the world could have understood at the time. Until the very day of December 1st, everything still appeared as though a young woman was enjoying her dream vacation. But footage taken from the CCTV system at Sky City captured the final sequence of moments, images that, when later shown in court, left the entire courtroom silent. That evening, Grace appeared before the camera with her usual smile, soft, warm, and completely unsuspecting. She walked into Sky City and met a man named Jesse Kempson, 26. In the footage, they chatted comfortably like two young people on a normal date. They left one bar, stopped at another, and continued their conversation naturally. Nothing in the footage suggested Grace was in any danger. In fact, she looked like she was enjoying her birthday, happy, open, and confident that everything was okay. At around 9:41 p.m., the City Life Hotel lobby cameras captured the two of them entering room 308. The door closed behind them, and no cameras captured Grace walking out again. That was the last image of her alive. The next few hours passed in silence, a silence that, at the time, no one recognized as a sign of impending tragedy. Grace had been energizing the family every day with calls, texts, and photos. But as the clock ticked to December 2nd, her birthday in the UK, not a single text, call, or photo arrived. Her parents waited, then worried, then began to wonder, has Grace forgotten? Has her phone battery died? But those questions quickly turned to fear as 24 hours passed without any news. On December 5th, the Millane family officially contacted the New Zealand police, and they didn't just say Grace was out of touch. They insisted, Grace never goes silent. Never. That's why a search effort was launched immediately. When police combed through hotel records, travel records, and surveillance footage, they made a crucial discovery. The last person seen with Grace was the man in the videos, Jesse Kempson. From then on, all eyes were on him. At first, he was cooperative, even concerned about Grace's well-being. But what police learned about him quickly painted a different picture. Kempson was not a stable man. He boasted of a good job, a prestigious family background, military experience, and business success. But these were just fabrications to hide the truth. He was unemployed, repeatedly fired, and frequently in conflict with those around him. From then on, all eyes were on him. To those who knew him, Kempson was a pathological liar, fabricating false stories just to appear trustworthy and valuable. Some even described him as living in a world of his own making. When police first questioned him, Kempson gave a story that sounded smooth. He said he and Grace broke up outside the hotel and she left on her own. But the calmness of that statement only drew more attention. Because in criminal psychology, people who are not involved often show genuine anxiety. It is people who are hiding something who tell their stories too perfectly. Grace's story is a poignant reminder that personal safety is fragile and violence against women is everywhere. The horrors of Room 308 is more than just a case file. It is a call to raise awareness, to care, protect, and stand up for the most vulnerable. Please share this story to raise awareness, to help people understand that no one deserves to be treated cruelly, and that by being compassionate, we can make the world a safer place every day. But Grace is not just remembered for the tragedy that occurred in Room 308. She left behind a legacy rooted in compassion. In their grief, the Millane family chose to turn their grief into positive action. They founded the Love Grace campaign, a charity that donates bags filled with essential items to women who have suffered domestic violence around the world. Each bag carries not only the urgency, but also the kindness, empathy, and love that Grace once showed to those around her. So her legacy is not sadness, it is light, spread through thousands. Grace Millane's death left an irreparable void in her family's life. The pain lingered for days, for years, like a wound that never fully healed. Her mother tearfully said, "I wish I could replace her." Those words were not just the cry of a grieving mother, but the voice of millions of parents around the world who just want their children to be safe when they go out. Grace's death sent shockwaves through the travel community in New Zealand and around the world. She represented freedom, youth, and the joy of exploring the world, making her loss all the more heartbreaking. By November 2019, after a 3-week trial, the jury took less than 5 hours to reach a verdict. Jesse Kempson was guilty of murder. He was sentenced to life in prison, with a minimum non-parole period of 17 years. As media investigations continued, other assaults and violence against women by Kempson were uncovered, revealing a pattern of predatory behavior rather than the accident he claimed. Kempson's subsequent actions created even deeper contradictions. Cleaning up the scene, buying suitcases, buying tools, renting a car, taking photos of the body, and even going on a Tinder date just hours after leaving Room 308. These actions not only contradicted the accident narrative, but also showed a frightening degree of calculation. But that argument quickly collapsed under the weight of the evidence. An autopsy revealed that Grace had been strangled for 4 to 5 minutes, far too long to be considered accidental. Throughout the trial, Kempson insisted that Grace's death was an accident during consensual sex, which his defense team called a sexual accident. He tried to convince the jury that everything in Room 308 was voluntary, Grace was not coerced, and the tragedy occurred due to unintended excess. This is a familiar legal tactic in cases involving assault, blaming the so-called accident. When all the digital data, CCTV footage, and timestamps were pieced together, the police knew one thing for sure: Jesse Kempson had fabricated his story. However, the truth only emerged when he entered the legal phase, where Kempson and his team of lawyers tried to change the story with a controversial argument, marking the beginning of the most complicated legal battles in the case. The answer lies in the next part of the story, where the investigation will expose the truth the criminal tried to hide. But before the truth was fully revealed, one question shook New Zealand. If Grace never left room 308, what happened inside that room? 1604, $5,000. What made the situation even more unsettling was that while Grace was being sought, Kempson continued to act as if nothing had happened, continuing to use Tinder, continuing to text other women, and continuing to make up flattering stories about himself. His indifference prompted the police to investigate further. And from that moment, the whole case began to unravel layer by layer. For the Millane family, even though justice was served, nothing could replace Grace's presence. However, the final verdict affirmed that her story was not overshadowed by lies nor buried beneath false arguments. Justice stood on the side of truth. And that is the ending society had hoped for. Yet the ending for Kempson did not stop there. After the trial, he continued to face several additional charges related to violence and abuse against women in his past. These cases were brought to light one by one, revealing a dangerous and repeated pattern of behavior. This made it even clearer that his sentence was not only meant to punish, but also to prevent the risk of reoffending and to protect others. Faced with compelling evidence and clear attempts to conceal what had happened, the jury did not take long to reach their conclusion. In November 2019, Jesse Kempson was convicted and sentenced to a prison term of 20 years. This was not only a legal decision, but a firm declaration that no attempt to distort the truth would be accepted. When the reconstruction of events was presented, all of New Zealand seemed to fall silent. For months, the family of Grace Millane had been living with a pain carved deeper by every testimony, every piece of evidence, and every misleading argument put forward to evade responsibility. To them, no sentence could ever bring Grace back, but justice still had to be carried out to ease even a fraction of their loss. During an earlier statement, Grace's father said that this pain will follow our family forever, and everyone present in the courtroom that day could feel the weight.